Let me tell you what happened during Hurricane Florence. One of the crucial steps that I think families in Eastern North Carolina need to take for hurricane preparedness is number one, have all your documents together. Keep them in a binder. I keep all my important documents in a binder. I take it with me literally everywhere. If something happens, then you don't have those important papers. Doctor records, birth certificates, social security, passports, all that stuff. Just keep it all together. Insurance information, anything that is super important, keep it in a binder and then take it with you. Another thing is make sure that you have 2 weeks worth of supplies. So batteries, canned goods, toilet paper. That's an important one. I want to say bread and milk, but not really. I mean, we don't, that's what everybody goes to the grocery store for to get the necessities, lamps, candles, things like that. Another thing that's super important, I myself have 2 dogs. So have a plan for your animals. You need to make sure that they're going to fit in the car with you, that wherever you go, if you do end up leaving, that they allow pets. So just make sure you have a plan for your pets too. Some of the local resources that we have are our local news. So you can get emergency alerts from the local government just so you can, be aware of any weather changes, anything that's going on as far as like the news. One thing that I did leave out is to make sure to get a battery powered radio because cell phones die and they're not reliable. So make sure to get yourself that so you can be in touch with the news. So the American Red Cross website that you can access to see what's happening in our area. So a few tips for creating an effective emergency kit. I would say if you plan on staying, get a tote, fill it up with, snacks, all the necessities, water, enough for 2 weeks. Plan on leaving, then just, again, get a little tote and put all that stuff in there, maybe 3 to 5 days worth. Okay, so some of the things that I would put in the kit are batteries, toiletries, water. I would also put Band-Aids, any medicine that you take on a daily. That's super important. I forget sometimes. So make sure you put that in there. Anything that is really important to you, I would just stuff it in there. So if you're leaving, 3 to 5 days worth. If you're staying put, 2 weeks. It is so important for coastal residents to have an evacuation plan. The authorities tell you to go and evacuate. Go. Don't be stubborn. Just listen to them and don't stray off the path. If there is a certain route that you're supposed to take that route. Make sure that you don't forget your stuff, that those emergency kits are super important. It's super important to make sure that you follow that evacuation route. So one more thing is, and this is very important, try to stay calm. People panic and they are in a rush to get out when they do say that you need to evacuate. So everybody's driving crazy, everybody is all over the place, and just causes mass hysteria. So just keep calm. So here's what my experience looked like during hurricane season. I've lived here for 9 years, so I have been through 9 hurricane seasons. I can tell you all the things about weather. I am a weather nerd, so I'm tracking it weeks in advance. There are also a couple of weather pages that I like to follow. The North Carolina Weather Authority is my favorite one. He's very good and super accurate. My experience during hurricane season has been, it's, again, doing our best to keep calm. But one thing that drives me crazy is when people don't secure their stuff, especially if you live in a neighborhood where houses are very close to one another. Make sure to bring your trash in, put it in the garage. Make sure to secure trampolines, pillows, anything that will fly away. Make sure to secure that because you don't want your stuff ending up in someone's yard. You don't want something hitting someone's car. Make sure that if you have a garage, put your car in the garage so that, it doesn't get damaged by anything. I have a spot in my house in case there's a tornado or the winds are really crazy. I have a spot in my house where I know that the minute we get a warning, we go in there and it's secure. One of the hurricanes that stands out to me while I've lived here is obviously Hurricane Florence. It caused a lot of damage for a lot of people. We prepped by taping up our windows. I had the evacuation plan. We ended up leaving going back up north. I had everything ready, my dogs, my kids. My husband was deployed at the time, so I was doing this all on my own. It was scary, but my plan was to just get all the important things that we needed and get my kids and my pets and go. So we taped up all the windows and just hoped for the best. When it was time, a couple days later after the hurricane had passed, they said that there was no re-entry into North Carolina because it had caused, a lot of flooding and damage. And so we had to stay put where we were at for about 2 weeks. Schools were, I think, out for, I can't even remember, but schools were out for a very long time. Came back, there was no damage, thankfully, to our home. But it's weird because the front of our neighborhood had a lot of the houses where there was shingles missing. There, you saw tarps on people's roofs. There were certain areas that we couldn't go through because it was flooded still. So it was just a really not a good time for everybody. There were a lot of people that suffered a lot of damages. So, but one thing that does stick out to me is that the community was so helpful. Everyone was so helpful. The shelters were open. Everybody, it was just, you really saw everyone step it up. And that's one thing that I love about living here is that when it's time to step up, everybody does. I do think that anybody that did experience that did learn from that. So if something were to happen again, I think people will probably be a little bit more prepared. Don't forget, the most important place that you can find information is the American Red Cross website or the app. That would be the most helpful place to find information. And one of the weather apps.